I was wrong about something, and I'd like to correct the record. For years, when people asked me what makes retirement hard, I gave the same confident answer: loneliness. The loss of colleagues, the quiet house, the missing structure of somewhere to be. I still believe that's true for a great many people. But I've come to think there's a second danger sitting right next to it, one I talked about far less. Mostly because it sounds so much smaller than it actually is. Boredom, not the dramatic kind. The low, flat, Tuesday afternoon kind. The kind that doesn't announce itself as a crisis, so nobody treats it like one. Here's what changed my mind. Watch what actually happens in the first 3 years as of most retirements, and a pattern shows up that the loneliness explanation doesn't cover. Year 1 is often busy. Travel, the bucket list, projects finally getting attention. Year 3 is when the trouble tends to arrive, once the novelty wears off and the calendar quietly empties back out. Gerontologists call the general phenomenon role loss, the specific unease of no longer having anywhere your effort is required. Nobody warns you it's a real problem on its own. Everyone just tells you to relax, and relaxing for 3 years straight turns out to be its own kind of unraveling. I used to think that pattern was really about loneliness wearing a disguise. Now I don't. Boredom and loneliness are cousins, not twins. You can have people in your life, a spouse, a book club, grandchildren on FaceTime, and still be quietly starved for something structured to reach for. Loneliness is missing people. Boredom is missing purpose. Filling one doesn't automatically fill the other, which is exactly why so many well-connected retirees still feel restless. Second thing I've changed my mind about. I used to recommend hobbies. I don't anymore, not as the main prescription. A hobby fills an hour. What actually seems to help, from everything I've read and watched play out, is something closer to a project. A thing with a beginning, an end, and a result somebody besides you will notice. Learning a language for a specific trip. Restoring one piece of furniture at a time. Organizing the community garden's spring planting. The difference isn't effort, it's shape. A hobby can drift forever without ever finishing. A project has an arc, and arcs are what a calendar full of open afternoons is actually missing. Third, and this is the one I got most wrong, I used to think boredom was a problem to manage quietly on your own, maybe with a new pastime. I now think it's worth saying out loud to the people around you, the same way you'd mention a nagging pain. "I'm going a little stir-crazy" is a sentence that gets you help, ideas, company. Sitting on it just gets you more of the same afternoons. So here's where I've landed, 3 corrections in. If retirement feels quieter than you expected in a way that isn't quite loneliness, if you're surrounded by people and still feel understimulated, trust that feeling. It's not ingratitude for a life you worked hard to get. It's information. Pick one unfinished thing with a real end point. Tell somebody you're starting it, and give it a deadline even if nobody's checking. I was wrong for longer than I'd like to admit. Consider this the correction.